We up and I'm feeling like a new me. Stacking new sets, some new E. NFTs, all of them you need. Back in my zone like 2-3. All time high, hit a new peak. Let's go. Homie, the Bulls is back. I said the Bulls is back.
GM and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're taking a look at the tokenomics of Ionet, one of the most hyped token launches of this bull market. Probably going to be one of the biggest token launches that we have in terms of where this thing is probably headed in terms of the crypto rankings overall. I think this is going to be a top contender. And so we want to see, are the tokenomics good? Is this going to be worthwhile investing in? As the TGE, which stands for Token Generation Event, i.e. when can you get your grubby little mitts on this token? Well, it's coming up on the 28th of April, i.e. this Sunday coming. So without further ado, let's jump into the video, but do subscribe if you're new around here. So brief overview, Ionet is essentially the Airbnb of GPUs. This means they're the supplier of GPU, aka the main resource required for AI and AI models. So they essentially are tapping into a layer of GPUs, aggregating them into their ecosystem, and then providing the service from which people can utilize that GPU resource. So think machine learning models, think new AI businesses that are going to be cropping up, a load of new tech. There is literally not enough supply to meet demand in terms of computes. They're not able to make chips fast enough. And so essentially GPU resource is the new oil. Now they have been aggregating even more supply, bringing on more providers into their ecosystem. So look, this is a new one. Aether Cloud is bringing in 40,000 enterprise grade H100s and A100s. These are top spec GPUs that big businesses will want to utilize. And so they're bringing them into their umbrella, and they're doing a lot of this kind of business development work. And so I think this is going to be the go-to platform where everyone's going to want to come to utilize compute resource. So this is going to be a huge one. If you want to see a full deep dive on this, I've got one on my channel. I'll leave it at the end of this video, but let's crack on with the tokenomics. So let's start off high level tokenomics here in the docs. Again, I'll leave a link to this down below. The max supply of this token will be 800 million. The ticker for the token is IO. So it's called IO. So IO coin or IO token, you'll hear this referred to as. So 800 mil max supply. They have some other core components, hourly rewards to suppliers and their stakers. So this means what they're going to be doing is utilizing the token and the tokenomics to ensure there's this on-demand GPU resource at their network, i.e. they're going to be paying people who want to provide GPU resource to the network just for idly having their GPUs online, good to go for anyone who wants to use them. So think of it as paying for the suppliers using the IO coin. Very interesting indeed. And the third component here is the deflationary mechanic, a burn mechanism. So we're going to tuck into all three of these here. Now it does state in here 500 million tokens are distributed at launch, and the remaining 300 mil go to the suppliers as per those hourly reward emissions. So what does this mean? Well, what they've thought out here is that we have these hourly rewards. So just think about it as a drip feeding of IO coins to anyone supplying GPUs to the network. So maybe you've got a few mining rigs, or maybe there's big data centers out there who actually want to get involved with this. You supply your resources, and as long as they're online, they're workable, they're not like dropping off the network, but they're there and people can use them. This is just going to pay you each and every hour in some IO coins. There are some calculations around that. But what they've done is they've taken those 300 million tokens for this purpose, and they drip fed them over 20 years. So all the way out to year 2044. So this shows you they've got a long-term time horizon. They're not here just for a quick, let's make a few quid this cycle and bugger off. This is a legit project. So this is the emissions rate over the coming years. It starts off with higher emissions. Obviously, they want to get as many people into the network as possible. They want to become the number one go-to GPU marketplace. And to be honest with you, with the numbers they're throwing around already, they seem like they already are. And so this will help to further bolster that. That is the benefit of having a token economy around your products. So let's now talk about the business model itself. What revenue is it going to generate, and how does this relate to burning of tokens? And of course, what you see is when a company or a crypto like this burns tokens, it obviously reduces the overall amount of tokens that are circulating, and this should lead in theory to higher prices as it increases the scarcity of said asset. So it says IO's use of a programmatic coin burn system where revenues generated by Ionet from the network are used to purchase and burn IO. So this reduces the outstanding supply of coins, causing deflationary pressure. So what matters here is, what are the fees? Are the fees going to be high? And thus would the burn rate obviously be high as well? So two sides of a coin, we have the renter's fees and the supplier's fees. So think of this as any marketplace. You got people who want to use resource and people who are supplying resource, and IO sitting as that kind of middleware, facilitating this to occur and taking a clip of either side. So the fees are the same on both sides here. So on the renter's side, we have a 0.25% reservation fee. If you pay in USDC, you're also charged 2%. So like a quite hefty fee for using dollars. But on the flip side, if you pay in the IO coin itself, there's no fees. So two things to note here. On this side of the equation, the rental side, it's taking 0.25% clip of all the business. It's then taking a 2% fee if you don't use the IO coin to pay, which would make no sense. If you're using this on any big scale, you're obviously just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to use the token. And thus, this is actually stimulating more demand for the IO coin itself. And it'll mean people want to buy it up as they're going to be using it as a means for payment to avoid that 2% additional fee. On the flip side, we have the reservation side. So the suppliers here, there's a reservation fee that goes to the supplier, and 0.25% is taken by the network for reservation of nodes. You can kind of think of this as a bit of a booking fee there. And so overall, they're taking 0.25% on both sides of the equation. So overall, pretty simple, 0.5% of all the business flow gets taken as a network fee for IO. So say they do 100 mil in compute cost in a month, 0.5% of that would be 500K. Same thing applies here for USDC payments, 2% fee. For IO payments, no fees. So they're trying to promote use of the IO coin. And in interviews, they're actually using the term IO coin will be like the petrodollar, but for compute resource. Let's look at this chart here. So how are the tokens coming out? Who's getting them and when? So what we can see on this chart here, the green line is the community rewards. So they've allocated 50% of the token. So out of 800 mil, 400 mil tokens will go to the community portion. Then we see these lines here. We've got team, series A, and seed rounds. As you can see, this is the baseline of where we're starting. So at TGE, the token generation event on the 28th of April, there will be 200 million tokens circulating. So that is 1/4 of the total supply, 25%. But you can see there's obviously community rewards, as we've talked about, those hourly rewards going to suppliers of compute resource to stimulate the growth of this network here. Those are obviously being paid out continuously for the next 20 years. But when we look at this next tranche here, this is at month 13. So team, series A, and seed investors are not getting any of their tokens for the first year. So this means there's a good patch of time here, a full 12 months in a bull market, in one of the most hot sectors, AI, with the kind of most hot niche sector within AI, which is compute. I think this is a bit of a banger. 12 months, low inflation for this token, a lot of demand for this token, and no one able to really dump on your head for a full year. I think this is going to be fireworks. And then towards the bottom, we have ecosystem and community tabs down here as well. So you can see the various breakdown in this chart here. 50% to community, early backers 12.5%, 10% to the series A, core contributors, aka the team 11%, R&D 16% in there. You'll also note that the vesting period for these earlier investors, so people who have been able to buy before the market goes live at a discount, they're not getting anything released, obviously, with that cliff. But once they do get released, they have a 24-month, aka 2-year vest on them. And then the team, which is at the top here, have a 36-month vest on their tokens. So a good cliff, a long vest, this is not a pump and dump. So now in terms of the tokenomics, how can you get your hands on the coins apart from just buying them on the open market? 3 ways they denote here. Supplying hardware. So if you've got some GPU resource, you can plug it into the system and start to earn those hourly rewards. Secondly, also as a supplier, once hired by an end user, you're also going to be earning the higher fee, which of course will be greater than the availability rewards. So think of it as being paid when you're kind of idle, and then being paid even more obviously when your compute resource is actually in use. And the third way to get some IO here is by staking IO coins as collateral to nodes in the network, i.e. staking your coins to specific GPU suppliers. So those availability rewards that we saw spanning 20 years will be paid out in IO coins denominated in IO, but the fee valued in US dollars. The approximate payback, so what they're saying is, say you've got a graphics card, they're going to pay you in those idle rewards a rough ROI of 1.5 years to pay for the actual CapEx, the capital expenditure of the node that you've created. So that means if you're just idle on the network and you never actually used, your ROI will be 1.5 years, which is damn impressive in my book. Then a bit of a further breakdown here. Supplier share, 95%, stakers, 5%. What does this mean? This means for those hourly availability rewards, 95% of that goes to the owner of the node, 5% to those who can stake to the various nodes. So you're starting to see the other utility of the IO coin. You can just buy some and stake it to a various node, but there are some drawdowns on that as well, which we'll talk about in just a moment. You'll also note here in blue, staker collateral multiplier, there's actually increased availability rewards if you have a lot of collateral staked to your nodes. There is a minimum stake. So in here, in order for a node to earn the availability rewards, each node has to stake the minimum 100 IO tokens. So say they're $10 per token, you're going to have to buy $1,000 worth just to have your node on the network and be eligible to earn those rewards back. So this will disincentivize people putting shitty hardware on the network, and also will stop people just farming this protocol for those availability rewards. So that is very smart in my opinion. And if you want to increase the ROI, you can also stake additional IO beyond that as well. So multiple reasons for everyone in this network to own IO coins and to put them to work, whether that be staking or potentially buying compute resource if that is what you require. There's also this 12-hour cooldown period. So if you are disconnected, you then reconnect, you're not going to receive any availability rewards for these first 12 hours, and they start to be drip fed to you afterwards. So this will disincentivize those who can't keep a stable connection. Then when your GPU is being used, you are receiving a higher fee. So this will obviously be greater than any of those idle hourly rewards. You're in use, you're being hired, and you can see within this, there's a calculation on screen. And at that point, the split is 99% to the hardware owner, 1% to the staker of that particular node. So at this point, we've got a good grasp of how the fees are being spread out. But further to this, in the staking rewards here, any IO coin holder, whether they're a user, supplier, community member, or other, can participate in the IO staking. So it says you just choose a node operator in the network, choose an amount of IO you wish to stake to them, and you stake it with them. Staker will then receive a share of the hourly staking rewards paid by the network to a node operator. So that is that 5% fee we saw. And stakers are able to split up into multiple different nodes. So you could stake to as many different operators as you wish. One of the considerations here, though, is of course the fact that if they are not operating well, so for example, GPU goes offline, for some reason, maybe your GPU is being used maliciously for whatever reason, that operator is therefore a risk, and there are slashing requirements here as well. So it is possible that your IO coins could be slashed. Therefore, you'll want to stake them with a reputable user if you do wish to stake. So there's obviously some downside risk to that as well. You could have some of your coins taken away from you if the node operator is a baddie. Then down in the purple, once staked, 7 days is the unstaking period, because that collateral, as it states in black and white here, acts as an insurance fund. So data leaks, spoofing, other malicious activities, that is where slashing and compensation can be applicable. Then final highlight of the page, all slashed IO is burned. So in summary, we can see how the token will operate, its usage, the potential for it to be staked, but the downside risks of that as well. And the kind of headlines here are that on the token generation event at the 28th, 200 million tokens are going to be out there in the wild and circulating. Not sure exactly what exchanges will list this straight out the gates. If you want to use a centralized exchange, I'm sure there will be quite a few that do list it, but it will have liquidity on Solana straight out the gates. Then we know that the vesting for this thing, 12-month cliff, so no one to dump on your head for a full year, and then a fairly orderly release of tokens over a 2 to 3 year period for those earlier investors. 50% of all network tokens going to be going to community. There is an airdrop for some of the people who have participated with the Galaxy and some other things as well. I think people who have utilized the network prior to token generation events, and I'm sure these will be made available very soon. But overall, I think this is a very good look in terms of the distribution and in terms of them not showing any signs within this documentation that they're extra greedy. It's not giving me pump and dump vibes. It looks like a very well thought out token economy where the IO coin itself will have multiple uses and everyone who is connected to this ecosystem will want to be holding it for a various utility. Now do come and check out the full interview by Grant and 563 over at Still Early here, biggest launch of 2024, Ionet. This one was a banger of a podcast released just a few days ago. Check it out. I'll leave a link to this down below as well. But I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.